Somewhere above the clouds, where the air thins and the sky turns impossibly blue, lies a world most humans will never see. Mountains so high they pierce the heavens. Monasteries clinging to cliffs like faith itself holds them there. Valleys so remote that even today, secrets remain hidden from satellites and explorers. This is the Himalayas. But what if I told you these aren't just mountains to climb or rivers to admire? They're alive, still growing, and holding mysteries that could change how we see the world. Could the sacred valleys monks have sought for centuries really exist? And what happens if the glaciers feeding 2 billion people vanish? By the end of this video, everything you thought you knew about these peaks will change. The mountain that kills. We begin where every story of the Himalayas must eventually lead. Mount Everest, the highest point on Earth, a name that has become synonymous with human ambition. Human folly, and the terrifying indifference of nature to human dreams. Standing at 8,148 meters above sea level, Everest is not the most technically difficult mountain to climb. It is not even the most dangerous, but it is the tallest, and that simple fact has drawn thousands of people to its slopes, many of whom never came back down. The Sherpas call it Chomolungma, the mother goddess of the world. The Tibetans call it Komolangma. The Nepalis call it Sagarmatha, the forehead of the sky, for the people who have lived in its shadow for generations. Everest is not a challenge to be conquered. It is a deity to be respected. Before every expedition, Sherpas perform puja ceremonies, asking the mountain's permission to climb. They burn juniper incense. They chant prayers. They hang prayer flags that will snap in the wind until they fade to white, carrying blessings across the roof of the world. Western climbers often dismiss these rituals as superstition. The mountain does not care about such dismissals. On May 29, 1953, Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay became the first confirmed humans to stand on the summit of Everest. The achievement electrified the world. It came just days before the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II, and the news was deliberately held until the morning of the ceremony, transforming what was already a global celebration into something even more triumphant. Hillary became a legend, Tenzing became an icon, and Everest became the ultimate symbol of human achievement. But what the celebrations obscured was the cost. The mountain that Hillary and Tenzing conquered would go on to claim over 300 lives. Their bodies remain on the mountain, frozen in the positions where they fell, preserved by the cold in a macabre gallery of human ambition. Climbers on the standard routes pass these bodies regularly. Some have become landmarks. Green Boots, an Indian climber who died in 1996, lay curled in a limestone alcove on the northeast ridge for years, his neon footwear visible to everyone who passed. Sleeping Beauty, a woman who died in 1998, lay on her back with her face exposed to the sky, her features slowly consumed by the elements. These are not secrets. These are fixtures. The mountain keeps its dead. The death zone begins above 8,000 meters. At that altitude, the human body begins to die. There is not enough oxygen in the air to sustain life for more than a brief period. Cells begin to deteriorate. Brain function declines. Judgment fails exactly when good judgment is most essential. Climbers describe a kind of euphoria that settles over them in the death zone, a dangerous contentment that makes them want to sit down and rest, to stop fighting, to let the mountain have them. Many who have died on Everest were not caught in storms or avalanches. They simply stopped moving and never started again. The Khumbu Icefall is another killer. Located on the standard route from Nepal, the Icefall is a frozen river of ice blocks, some the size of houses. that shifts and groans as it descends from the western CDUM. Climbers must cross this unstable maze using aluminum ladders lashed together over crevasses that drop into blue-black nothing. The icefall moves, not quickly enough to see, but quickly enough to matter. On April 18, 2014, an enormous serac collapsed without warning, burying 16 Sherpa guides in an avalanche that became the deadliest single disaster in Everest history until the earthquake of 2015 killed even more. And yet people keep coming. Every spring, hundreds of climbers gather at base camp, a tent city at 5,364 meters that has grown so large it now generates significant waste and environmental concerns. The summit window, the brief period when weather conditions allow an attempt on the peak, creates bottlenecks on the upper slopes. Photographs have shown lines of climbers waiting their turn on the Hillary step, queuing for the summit as if waiting for a ride at an amusement park. Some have died in those lines, their bodies cooling as they waited for their chance at glory. But Everest is only the beginning. The trek to base camp, which does not require technical climbing skills, has become one of the most popular trekking routes in the world. The journey takes approximately 2 weeks, winding through Sherpa villages where brightly colored prayer flags flutter against the sky and mani stones carved with Buddhist prayers line the paths. Trekkers pass through Namche Bazaar, a trading town that has served travelers for centuries. They cross suspension bridges hung with prayer flags, swaying over gorges where rivers roar far below. They acclimatize slowly, allowing their bodies to adjust to the thinning air, and with each day the peaks grow larger and more impossibly beautiful. The views from base camp are staggering. Everest looms above, its summit often shrouded in a plume of wind-blown snow that the locals call the Banner of Everest. The Khumbu icefall glitters in the morning light. Neighboring peaks like Lhotse and Nuptse frame the scene with their myths. Standing there, at the foot of the world's highest mountain, is a humbling experience that makes everything else in life feel very small. The monasteries in the clouds. From the shadow of Everest, we descend into the valleys where Himalayan civilization has flourished for centuries, and the first wonder that awaits us is Tengboche Monastery, the spiritual heart of the Khumbu region. Perched at 3,967 meters, Tengboche offers views of Everest, Lhotse, and Ama Dablam that seem almost impossibly perfect, as if a painter had arranged the peaks specifically for the monastery's benefit. Founded in 1916, Tengboche is the largest monastery in the Khumbu and serves as the cultural center of Sherpa Buddhism. The monastery has been destroyed twice, once by earthquake and once by fire, and rebuilt each time by a community that refuses to let their sacred spaces disappear. Inside, monks chant sutras in deep, resonant tones that seem to vibrate through the wooden floors. Butter lamps flicker before golden statues. The smell of incense hangs in the cold mountain air. Each autumn, Tengboche hosts the Mani Rimdu Festival, a celebration that draws Sherpas from villages throughout the region. For 3 days, monks perform sacred dances depicting the victory of Buddhism over the ancient Bon religion. They wear elaborate costumes and masks representing deities and demons, their movements prescribed by centuries of tradition. Visitors are welcome to watch and to receive blessings from the lamas. It is one of the most extraordinary cultural experiences in the Himalayas, a window into a spiritual tradition that has survived in these mountains for over 1,000 years. But Tengboche is only one of countless monasteries scattered across the Himalayan range. To the north, in Tibet, the monasteries reach an entirely different scale. We journey now to Shigatse, the second largest city in Tibet, and home to the Tashil Hunpo Monastery. This sprawling complex was founded in 1447 by the first Dalai Lama and serves as the traditional seat of the Panchen Lama, the second highest spiritual leader in Tibetan Buddhism. Tashilhunpo is a city unto itself. Its golden roofs glitter against the barren Tibetan plateau. Its whitewashed walls rise in tiers up the hillside. Inside, you will find a statue of the Maitreya Buddha, the Buddha of the future, that stands 26 meters tall and took 4 years to construct. The statue is covered in nearly 300 kilograms of gold and studded with countless precious stones. Standing before it, you feel the weight of devotion that built this place, the faith that carved sacred images from solid rock and carried golden sheets up mountain paths to honor beings that exist beyond the physical world. From Shigatse, we continue to the holy city of Lhasa, the spiritual center of Tibetan Buddhism and one of the most sacred places on earth. Lhasa sits at 3,656 meters, and its thin air has been breathed by pilgrims for and standing in its ancient streets, surrounded by temples and monasteries and the endless sound of prayer wheels turning, you begin to understand why. The Potala Palace dominates the Lhasa skyline, like a vision from another world. Rising from Marpo Ri, the Red Hill, the palace was the winter residence of the Dalai Lama until the 14th Dalai Lama fled to India in 1959. Its towering white and red walls contain over 1,000 rooms, including chapels, tombs, and meditation chambers that have witnessed centuries of spiritual practice. UNESCO declared it a World Heritage Site. But no official designation can capture what it feels like to climb the palace's steep stairs and emerge onto terraces that overlook the entire city. Below the palace, the Jokang Temple draws pilgrims from every corner of Tibet. This 7th century temple houses a statue of the Buddha Shakyamuni that is considered the most sacred image in Tibetan Buddhism. Pilgrims prostrate themselves before the temple, their bodies rising and falling in ancient patterns of devotion. Some have traveled for months to reach this place, measuring the distance with their bodies, rising and falling across hundreds of kilometers of plateau. The faith that drives such journeys is difficult for outsiders to comprehend. But standing in the Jokang, watching the butter lamps flicker and listening to the low murmur of prayer, you begin to sense the depth of devotion that has sustained Tibetan Buddhism through centuries of hardship. The Barkor, the sacred pilgrimage circuit that surrounds the Jokang, is where that devotion becomes visible. Every day, thousands of pilgrims walk the Barkor in a clockwise direction, spinning prayer wheels, murmuring mantras, carrying themselves around the temple in an act of circumambulation that they believe generates spiritual merit. The circuit is lined with shops selling prayer flags, thanka paintings, singing bowls, and other religious items. The air is thick with incense. The sound of chanting never stops. Walking the Barkor is like stepping into a living meditation, a reminder that spirituality in Tibet is not confined to temples and monasteries, but flows through every aspect of daily life. The sacred mountains and holy lakes. From Lhasa, we journey west to the most sacred peak in the Himalayas. Not Everest, not K2, but Mount Kailash, a mountain that has never been climbed and, if the faithful have their way, never will be. Standing at 6,638 meters, Kailash is not the tallest peak in the region, but its perfect pyramid shape, its isolated position, and its profound religious significance have made it a destination for pilgrims from 4 different religions for thousands of years. Hindus believe Kailash is the abode of Lord Shiva, who sits atop the peak in eternal meditation. Buddhists believe it is the home of the Buddha Demchok, representing supreme bliss. Jains believe their first prophet achieved liberation on this mountain. Followers of the ancient Bon religion consider it the seat of all spiritual power. 4 faiths, 1 mountain. All agree that climbing to its summit would be a desecration. Instead, pilgrims circumambulate the mountain, walking the 52-kilometer path around its base in a ritual known as the Kora. For Buddhists and Hindus, the Kora is walked clockwise. For Bon practitioners, it is walked counterclockwise. Both believe that completing the circuit generates immense spiritual merit. Some pilgrims complete the Kora in a single day, walking from before dawn until after dark. Others take 3 days, savoring each step. The most devoted perform the Kora through full-body prostrations, measuring the entire 52 kilometers with their bodies. This can take weeks. Some do not survive the journey. Those who complete it believe they have burned away the karma of a lifetime. The landscape around Kailash is stark and beautiful. The Tibetan plateau stretches to the horizon, a high-altitude desert of brown and gold. Prayer flags flutter at every pass. Stone cairns mark the path. The air is thin and cold, the sky a blue so deep it feels infinite. And at the center of it all, Kailash rises like an altar, its snow-covered slopes catching the light of dawn and dusk in colors that shift from gold to pink to deep violet. Near Kailash lies Lake Manasarovar, one of the highest freshwater lakes in the world and one of the most sacred. Hindus believe that bathing in its waters cleanses a lifetime of sins. Buddhist texts describe it as the lake from which the lotus flower emerged to cradle the infant Buddha. The lake sits at 4,590 meters, its turquoise waters reflecting the surrounding peaks in perfect stillness. Pilgrims who complete the Kora around Kailash often continue to Manasarovar, immersing themselves in waters so cold they steal the breath from your lungs. Further north, we encounter Namtso Lake, the highest saltwater lake in the world. Sitting at 4,718 meters, Namtso means heavenly lake, and the name is earned. The lake stretches for 70 kilometers. Its deep blue waters set against the snow-capped peaks of the Nyinchan Range. During the Year of the Sheep in the Tibetan calendar, which comes once every 12 years, thousands of pilgrims circumambulate the lake in an act of devotion that takes weeks to complete. Yamdrok Lake completes the trio of Tibet's holy lakes. Shaped like a coiling turquoise dragon, Yamdrok sits at 4,441 meters, its bright blue waters contrasting sharply with the brown mountains that surround it. Tibetans believe the lake is the transformed body of a goddess, and its waters are said to bring prosperity and fertility to those who worship it. Standing on the shores of Yamdrok, watching yaks graze on the hillsides as clouds cast moving shadows across the water, you understand why the Tibetans consider this landscape sacred. It feels sacred. Something in the thin air and vast spaces speaks to a part of the human soul that the modern world has almost forgotten. The kingdoms of Bhutan and Nepal. From Tibet, we descend into the hidden kingdom of Bhutan, one of the most mysterious and carefully protected nations on Earth. Bhutan measures its success not by GDP, but by gross national happiness. It limits tourism to protect its culture and environment. It banned television until 1999 and plastic bags in 1999. In a world racing toward modernization, Bhutan has chosen a different path, and that choice is visible in every prayer flag, every monastery, every traditional robe worn by its citizens. Our first stop in Bhutan is the Tiger's Nest Monastery, one of the most iconic images in all the Himalayas. Officially known as Paro Taktsang, the monastery clings to a cliff face 900 meters above the Paro Valley. According to legend, Guru Rinpoche, the founder of Tibetan Buddhism, flew to this spot on the back of a tigress and meditated in a cave here for 3 years, 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days, and 3 hours. The monastery that grew around that cave has become Bhutan's most sacred site. The hike to Tiger's Nest takes approximately 2 hours, winding through forests of rhododendron and blue pine. Prayer flags mark the path. The sound of wind chimes carries through the trees. As you climb, the monastery appears and disappears behind ridges, always more dramatic than you remembered, always more impossible. How did anyone build this? How do the monks who live here carry supplies up the mountain? How has this structure survived centuries of earthquakes and storms? When you finally reach the monastery, the questions fade. The halls are lit by butter lamps. The murals depict scenes from Buddhist scripture in colors that glow even in the dim light. Monks move quietly through the corridors, their robes rustling against the wooden floors. The view from the monastery's terraces stretches across the entire valley, a patchwork of rice fields and traditional farmhouses that has changed little in centuries. Standing there, you feel the weight of history and the lightness of altitude, and for a moment, the modern world seems very far away. From Paro, we travel to Thimphu, Bhutan's capital and the only capital city in the world without traffic lights. Thimphu is a study in contrasts, where traditional architecture is mandated by law, and yet modern cafes and bars have begun to appear. The city's spiritual center is the National Memorial Chorten, a white stupa built in 1974 to honor the third king of Bhutan. Every day, elderly Bhutanese gather here to spin prayer wheels and circumambulate the Chorten, their devotion as constant as the turning of the earth. The Tashicho Dzong dominates Thimphu's skyline, a massive fortress monastery that houses both the throne room of the king and the central monastic body. Dzongs are unique to Bhutan, serving as both administrative centers and religious institutions. Their whitewashed walls, golden roofs, and intricate woodwork represent the pinnacle of Bhutanese architecture. The Tashicho Dzong hosts the annual Thimphu Chechu, a festival where monks perform sacred mask dances that have been preserved for centuries. Crossing into Nepal, we enter the Kathmandu Valley, the cultural and historical heart of the nation. This UNESCO World Heritage Site contains 7 monument zones, including 3 former royal palace squares that showcase the architectural achievements of the Malla kings, who ruled here from the 12th to the 18th century. Bhaktapur Durbar Square is perhaps the best preserved of these, a medieval city where time seems to have stopped centuries ago. The 55-window palace displays wood carving so intricate it seems impossible that human hands created it. The Nyatapola Temple rises 5 stories into the sky, the tallest pagoda in Nepal, guarded by stone statues of wrestlers, elephants, lions, griffins, and goddesses, each tier more powerful than the one below. Walking through Bhaktapur's narrow streets, you encounter potters spinning clay as their ancestors did, women drying grain on ancient stones, and temples where devotees still offer prayers to gods who have been worshipped here for millennia. Patan Durbar Square offers a different experience, its temples and monuments reflecting the blend of Hindu and Buddhist influences that has characterized Nepalese culture for centuries. The Krishna Mandir, built entirely of stone without any wood or metal, is considered one of the finest examples of stone architecture in Nepal. The Golden Temple, a Buddhist monastery dating to the 12th century, welcomes visitors into courtyards where prayer wheels line the walls and the smell of incense never fades. The wild heart of the Himalayas. The Himalayas are not only mountains, they are also jungles. Descending from the peaks into the Terai lowlands, we enter Chitwan National Park, a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the finest wildlife reserves in Asia. Here, the landscape transforms from snow and rock to dense subtropical forest, and the wildlife changes accordingly. Chitwan is home to Bengal tigers, one-horned rhinoceroses, wild elephants, sloth bears, and more than 500 species of birds. The park was established in 1973, when the population of one-horned rhinos had dropped to fewer than 100 individuals. Today, thanks to rigorous conservation efforts, the population has rebounded to over 600. Chitwan has become a model for wildlife conservation in Asia, proving that human development and natural preservation can coexist. The experience of visiting Chitwan is unlike anything else in the Himalayas. Safari jeeps carry visitors through tall grasslands where rhinos graze and tigers hunt. Dugout canoes drift down the Rapti River, where mugger crocodiles bask on sandbars and gharials, with their strange, elongated snouts slip beneath the surface. Elephant-back safaris allow visitors to approach wildlife more closely. the massive pachyderms moving through the jungle with surprising silence. But it is the tiger that draws most visitors to Chitwan. The Bengal tiger is one of the most endangered animals on Earth, with fewer than 4,000 individuals remaining in the wild. Chitwan is one of the best places in the world to see them, though sightings are never guaranteed. The tigers here are wild, not habituated to human presence, and they move through their territory like ghosts, leaving pug marks in the mud and scratch marks on trees but rarely showing themselves. When a tiger does appear, emerging from the tall grass or crossing a jungle road, the experience is electric. You understand in that moment why humans have worshipped and feared these animals for thousands of years. From the jungles of Nepal, we journey to the high passes of Ladakh, sometimes called Little Tibet, for its stark landscapes and deep Buddhist heritage. Ladakh is a cold desert, its brown mountains rising above crystal-clear rivers in a landscape that feels more like Mars than Earth. The region was an independent kingdom until 1846 and retains a distinct cultural identity that blends Tibetan Buddhism with local traditions. Leh, Ladakh's capital, sits at 3,524 meters, surrounded by the peaks of the Ladakh Range. The city is dominated by the Leh Palace, a 9-story structure that resembles a smaller version of the Potala Palace in Lhasa. Below the palace, the old town's narrow alleys wind between whitewashed houses with wooden balconies, creating a maze of ancient architecture that has survived centuries of trade and conflict. The monasteries of Ladakh are among the most spectacular in the Buddhist world. Thixi Monastery, with its 12 stories rising from a hilltop above the Indus Valley, is often compared to the Potala Palace for its dramatic profile. Inside, a massive statue of the Maitreya Buddha watches over prayer halls decorated with Thangka paintings and ancient murals. Hemis Monastery, the largest in Ladakh, hosts an annual festival where monks perform masked dances in celebration of Guru Rinpoche. The festival draws Ladakhis from across the region, transforming the monastery grounds into a vibrant celebration of culture and faith. Pangong Lake is perhaps Ladakh's most famous destination. Stretching 134 kilometers across the border between India and China. The lake sits at 4,350 meters, its waters changing color throughout the day from deep blue to turquoise to emerald green. The lake was featured in the Bollywood film 3 Idiots, which brought international attention to its surreal beauty. Visitors camp on the shore, watching the light play across the water as the mountains turn gold and purple in the setting sun. The savage peaks of Pakistan. Our journey now crosses into Pakistan, where the Himalayas meet the Karakoram Range and the mountains reach their most dramatic extremes. Here we find K2, the second highest mountain in the world and by far the most dangerous. Standing at 8,611 meters, K2 has claimed the lives of approximately 1 in 4 climbers who have attempted its summit. Everest is higher. K2 is harder. The mountain's nickname is the Savage Mountain, and it is earned. K2's steep slopes allow no easy route to the summit. The weather is notoriously unpredictable, with storms appearing without warning and temperatures dropping to levels that can kill in minutes. The famous bottleneck, a narrow couloir below the summit, is threatened by massive seracs that can collapse at any moment, sweeping everything below into oblivion. In 2008, 11 climbers died on K2 in a single disaster when one of these seracs collapsed, triggering an avalanche that cut climbing ropes and sent bodies tumbling down the mountain. And yet K2 draws mountaineers from around the world. There is something about the mountain's savage beauty that calls to those who seek the ultimate challenge. Its perfect pyramid shape, its dramatic ridges, its glaciers that cascade down like frozen waterfalls, all combine to create a peak that is as beautiful as it is deadly. Below K2, we find the Hunza Valley, one of the most stunning destinations in Pakistan. This lush green oasis is surrounded by towering peaks, including Rakaposhi, whose 7,788-meter summit dominates the valley's skyline. Hunza is famous for its terraced fields, its ancient forts, and its friendly people, who are renowned for their longevity and hospitality. Apricot orchards line the roads. Stone towers rise from village centers. The Karakoram Highway, one of the highest paved roads in the world, winds through the valley, offering views that leave travelers speechless. Fairy Meadows is another Pakistani treasure, a high alpine meadow that offers views of Nanga Parbat, the 9th highest mountain in the world. The meadow is accessible only by a challenging trek that deters casual visitors, preserving its pristine beauty. From Fairy Meadows, Nanga Parbat's massive south face rises over 4,600 meters from base to summit, one of the largest mountain walls on Earth. The mountain is called the Killer Mountain for the many lives it has claimed, but from the meadow's green grass and wildflowers, it appears almost gentle, a sleeping giant wrapped in ice and stone. Return to the sacred. Our journey through the Himalayas began with mountains and will end with water. We descend now to the plains of India, to the holy cities that have grown where the sacred rivers emerge from the mountains. Rishikesh and Haridwar, twin cities on the Ganges, represent the point where the river leaves the Himalayas and enters the plains that will carry its waters to the Bay of Bengal. Rishikesh is called the yoga capital of the world. Ashrams line the riverbanks. Meditation centers offer instruction in techniques developed over thousands of years. Sadhus, holy men who have renounced worldly life, sit on the ghats in orange robes, their bodies smeared with ash, their eyes focused on something beyond the physical world. The Beatles came here in 1968, studying transcendental meditation with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and writing many of the songs that would appear on the White Album. Rishikesh has attracted spiritual seekers ever since. Downstream, Haridwar is one of the 7 holiest cities in Hinduism. Every evening, the Ganga Aarti ceremony transforms the riverbank into a scene of fire and devotion. Priests hold flaming lamps, rotating them in elaborate patterns as devotional songs fill the air. Pilgrims cup their hands in the cold river water. Flower offerings and oil lamps are set afloat, drifting downstream in flickering constellations. The sound of bells and chanting echoes off the ancient buildings. Standing on the ghat at Haridwar during Ganga Aarti, watching the flames reflected in the dark water, you understand why this river has been worshipped for 5,000 years. Further into the mountains, Gangotri marks the point where the Ganges begins its journey. The Gangotri temple, dedicated to the goddess Ganga, draws thousands of pilgrims each summer who come to worship at the source of India's holiest river. Beyond the temple, trekkers continue to Gaumukh, the snout of the Gangotri Glacier, where the river emerges from beneath the ice. Standing at Gaumukh, watching the glacial water begin its 2,500-kilometer journey to the sea, you witness one of the most sacred origins in Hindu cosmology. The Himalayas are more than mountains. They are the home of gods, the refuge of monks, and the last great wilderness of Asia. From Everest's deadly heights to Bhutan's hidden valleys, Tibet's sacred lakes to Pakistan's savage peaks, each corner tells a story more extraordinary than the last. But these mountains are changing. Glaciers are melting, rivers shrinking, and monsoons growing unpredictable. They remind us that nature is the foundation of life, that spirituality and ecology are connected, and that some places demand our reverence. Which Himalayan wonder calls to you? The summit of Everest, a cliffside monastery, a tiger in the wild, or a lake that shifts with the light? The Himalayas have room for every dream. The question is, do we have room in our hearts?